This is the Jack Murphy Podcast. Here's your host, Jack Murphy.
So I didn't watch the show last night. I had some theories on what Jimmy Kimmel might say, but I got up early, as I always do this morning, and I went on YouTube and I watched the opening monologue apology, and I never heard an apology for what most of us were mad about, and that was just simply the lie he told about the shooter, where he said that MAGA, meaning conservatives, had spent the entire weekend trying to convince everybody that the shooter wasn't one of their own, that he wasn't a MAGA. That was the big lie. And then, pile that on top of everything bad Jimmy Kimmel has said about conservatives and the president over the last, 8 years. It was just too much. And so it was too much for Sinclair. It was too much for Nexstar. Excuse me. And they decided that they weren't going to run the show because I think probably they knew deep down he wasn't really going to do an apology, and he didn't. He said, I get threats too. You're on television. I would venture to guess everybody on television gets threats. He said something gratuitous about Charlie Kirk's wife. And then the most amazing part of it to me was not only the fact that he didn't apologize for what he said, he didn't fess up to the lie that he said. He then used the argument that a lot of times when people who say they aren't racist, somebody gets called a racist and they go, I'm not a racist. A lot of my friends are black. And I've always thought, that's a pretty good defense for racism if you really haven't done anything wrong, but it's an easy way to call out somebody when you want to call them a racist, whether they are or aren't. But Kimmel last night did that. He goes, hey, I've got a lot of friends that are conservatives that like President Trump. I've got a lot of relatives that like President Trump. So it's the same type of argument. Anyway, I thought the apology was about what I expected him to do. It fell on deaf ears as far as I'm concerned because there was no apology for the lie that he told. In fact, he didn't even admit that he told the lie. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens, because if Nexstar and Sinclair continue not airing the program, I already don't think it's economically viable. But I think if they don't put it back on the air, it's really not going to be economically viable. Why would you spend all that money every year on a show that your affiliates don't want to run? You could just put on something cheap and make a lot more money. So Don Lemon, who used to just say outrageous things on CNN when they were allowing just anybody to come on and say outrageous things, he said some of the most offensive, outrageous things anybody's ever said on CNN. But he said some things, and I didn't mind it a whole lot because he's very liberal, he's gay, he's very outspoken. I knew what CNN was about at the time. But when he started acting like he knew what the Bible said, and he would quote it, and he would try to throw it in other people's faces, that's when he became really a farce and laughable to me. And he's doing that a lot now, and I didn't even know that he had done this, but let me tell you what he did. So he did a video, and I'm going to play it for you. He did a video about the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And he couldn't just say, look at all these conservatives who got together to honor Charlie Kirk. He had to try to turn it into something else. And then what really stunned me was the brazen plug for his book, because in the middle of it all, here's a gay man married to another gay man. He's pro-abort. He's everything that liberals stand for. In the middle of it, he goes, I'm a man of faith myself. I wrote a book about it. And I just went, you can't get any lower than that. But anyway, here he is talking about it. Watch.
I had to talk to you about something that is serious. I don't want to be disrespectful, but you know how I like to tell the truth. So
Well,
glad that
hold
you're here
on.
this
That's a
morning.
lie right there. He loves being disrespectful, and I don't know that he loves to tell the truth.
And this one is particularly important and familiar to me, and because it involves something that I believe is controlling of people, something that distorts people's thinking, and something that is disrespectful of actual, true Christianity.
Okay, so now Don Lemon has just said that he knows what true Christianity is, and you don't, and you're being disrespectful of it. That's what he just said.
And the danger that religion poses. Now, I say this
Here it comes.
as a person of faith. As you know, I wrote a book about it.
No, I didn't know, and I have to say your book's probably full of BS.
I'm not saying that you don't have to go out and buy it. I'm just saying, I'm just showing you this because
But I'm going to show it to you and tell you I wrote
just
the book.
a year ago.
Yeah.
Was it September? A year ago this month.
Mm-hmm.
This book came out. And I warned people about the dangers of Christian nationalism, white nationalism, but Christian, wrapped in Christian nationalism. And that's a real thing. You can want to believe that it's happening or not.
I don't. And again, I don't want to take any advice from Don Lemon because I disagree with everything that Don Lemon stands for.
And that is a warning the rest of this country cannot afford to ignore.
Black people, racism.
Racism. People don't like to talk about racism.
All right, so Kamala Harris, she's out there she's got a book too, just like Don Lemon. She's out there trying to peddle that book. And she's hitting all the spots that will have her. And so she hit the Rachel Maddow show on MSNBC. You would think that's home turf. That's like coming home. That's friendly ground. You're not going to get any dangerous fire coming your way. Well, it didn't work out quite that way. This book that she wrote, I don't know if she underestimated the reaction she was going to get from her fellow Democrats and liberals, but a lot of people don't like what she wrote. A lot of people said she's full of you-know-what in the book as well, and she's going to keep on until the Bidens are finally going to turn on her. Everybody else already has. But she went on with Rachel Maddow and talked about how, maybe she was too careful. Maybe she should have said something about Joe Biden. And when she was picking a vice presidential candidate, maybe Tim Walz wasn't the best choice. Here she is. This is funny. Here she is trying to explain to a lesbian why she didn't pick a gay man who may have been more qualified to be the VP. It's pretty good.
Let me ask you a politics question. I mentioned in the intro tonight that you say in the book really bluntly that your personal first choice for your running mate would have been Pete Buttigieg, and you praise him effusively. You say he would have been an ideal partner if I were a straight man. And you say effectively that demographically it was too much to ask of the American people to ask them to elect you with him as your running mate. I wonder if his reaction to that, since this part of the book has come out, if you've had any reflection on that, or I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay is hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said.
No.
That he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay. My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that.
Now get ready for some good word salad here. It's coming. You can, whenever she starts looking down and moving those hands, it's coming.
In 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States against someone like Donald Trump who knows no floor.
And then when she wants to make the point, she likes to shake her head to get you to agree. He knows no floor. Hotly contested.
To be a black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk. No matter how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
That
we had such a
Yeah.
short period of time. And the stakes were so high. I think Pete is a phenomenal public servant. And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious. I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was. But that's the decision I made, and I, as with everything.
Well, anyway, that's just all BS from Kamala Harris.
Have you ever had a dream that you want him to do you so much you could do anything?
Now, did you see this story yesterday when Trump was speaking at the UN? He just went in and eviscerated them. It was a classic Trump speech. If you haven't seen the speech, it was very enjoyable. He went in and told them that the open borders policy of the world was a big mistake, never should have been done. It was time to end it. And a bunch of dictators got up and said horrible things about him. But the interesting thing that happened was just before his speech, the Secret Service announced they had dismantled this telecom threat in New York City that could have blacked out cell service and jammed 911 calls. So it was, I saw the video. It was like an apartment or an industrial building, and it was full of little cell towers, thousands and thousands of them. So I guess they had some sort of program where they could have jammed up the 911 system or the text messaging system. And had there been an incident, maybe there was one planned, we don't know, at the UN, they wouldn't have been able to get help there. And the SIM cards involved have all been tied to foreign governments. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some sort of retribution for that, whoever was involved in it. Wait and see.
You see them sometimes walking around blindly with dead eyes, following orders, not knowing what they do, not caring.
You mean like Democrats?
Now, the Trump derangement syndrome continues. Trump made an announcement a couple of days ago at the White House during a press conference about Tylenol and about how there could be a causation between taking Tylenol when you're pregnant, and autism. And I went and read some, and there were a bunch of studies done, including one at Harvard, where 27 doctors said, yeah, we see possible causation and links to Tylenol, and 13 doctors said no. So twice as many said yes as no. This is the problem with a lot of the science, particularly medical science, that we're getting these days. It's confusing to normal people. You're forced to go with the odds. All right, I'm not going to take Tylenol while I'm pregnant because it could cause autism. But if you say that and you're a Republican, automatically it's fake news, fake science, whatever. And so what are these women with Trump derangement syndrome doing? Same thing they did about the COVID vaccines. There were actually women who went out and got extra COVID boosters just to spite President Trump. Now they're doing videos on social media, pregnant women gobbling down Tylenol just to do the opposite of what he said at the press conference. Now that is true derangement. And by the way, Tylenol has even tweeted out, please don't take our products unless you absolutely need to, particularly if you're pregnant.
Se te olvida que hasta puedo hacerte mal si me decido, pues tu amor lo tengo muy comprometido, pero a fuerza.
So there's something going on the internet and on social media, and it's a trend called, what was your turning point? What was your turning point? And it's people doing videos where they were liberals, or they were Democrats, or maybe they were just kind of in the middle, but they definitely weren't conservatives and they weren't Trump supporters. But something happened that changed them. It was their turning point, and they became conservatives. Excuse me, fighting a little cold. They became conservatives, or they became Trump supporters. And I want to give an example of it. A registered Democratic mom in New Jersey has gone viral on TikTok admitting she had her political turning point the day her 11-year-old daughter came home from school and said she hated Charlie Kirk. Without even knowing, after she asked her some questions, she didn't even know who Charlie Kirk was. She said it exposed the shocking level of indoctrination that's happening inside America's classrooms, including the one her 11-year-old was going to. Now, forever and ever, Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, has been warning parents about what's happening in our schools, the indoctrination. And he's warning them, you don't know it. And so he said, if you can, homeschool, send your child to a private Christian school or whatever, but if you're sending them to public schools, who said this famously? That there's some minister who said this, but he said, if you send your children to Roman schools, don't be surprised when they come home Romans. And this is exactly what she said. She explained that she's been a registered Democrat for years, prided herself on voting for the person, not the party, but this was her turning point, and she was switching to the Republican Party.
Hands next to you on the mat and begin a very gentle bouncing up and down. As you get better, lift one leg up, and as it tires, alternate legs. You can lift both legs up and put your body into a V shape.
So a couple of not so serious things before we go today. I read something yesterday that I liked, and it was someone asked, what's actually something that's healthy despite people thinking it's not? And it turns out there are a lot of them, like taking breaks, taking naps, frozen vegetables, MSG, and potatoes. Now, a lot of people think that frozen foods are prepared foods, but actually now they pick vegetables really, really quickly. They're fresh. They flash freeze them. They're not cooked or processed, so they retain all the nutrients. They're perfectly fine. But a lot of people have an aversion to them just because they're frozen, but they're actually quite healthy. Some others on the list: diet soda, Snackwell cookies, vitamin water, tanning for vitamin D. But here's some things that people think are unhealthy, but they're actually not. Daydreaming. Daydreaming can be a form of focusing and meditation. Good, because I do that a lot. Taking breaks when you feel unproductive. It isn't lazy. It can be a reset, like a midday nap. I don't know about you, but as I get older, I had a hard time taking naps when I was younger. Just couldn't stop my mind from going. I felt tired. I felt sleepy. I'd lay down, but I couldn't stop my mind. Now I can take a power nap every now and then. They're amazing. You give me a 30-minute power nap, I feel brand new. MSG. MSG is what gives food its savory flavor. It's basically just salt, a natural flavor, and used in moderation is perfectly fine. In fact, salt, fat, and sugar, they're all good. They all are the delights that the good Lord gave us for food, and they're all fine as long as they're used in moderation. Eggs. Some people still think eating eggs is like a cholesterol bomb, but they're super nutrient dense. And cholesterol is not necessarily bad for you. Carbs. People demonize them, but whole grains and fruits are literally fuel for your brain. And potatoes. They get a bad rap because they're usually prepared with a lot of oil and butter, fried, processed into chips. But if you roast them, bake them, air fry, or broil them, they're quite possibly the healthiest starchy carb that you can possibly get. All right, there's some feel-good news for you from the Jack Murphy Podcast. By the way, if you haven't, like and subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode tomorrow of the Jack Murphy Podcast.
Thanks for watching the Jack Murphy Podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Go ahead, ring it. Get alerts when a new episode drops, and tell your friends about the Jack Murphy Podcast. But only the cool friends, please. Tune in next time for another episode of the Jack Murphy Podcast.